If everyone could take their seats, please. I call to order tonight's regular meeting of the Board of Education of CUSD 201, today, July 14th, 2015. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Ms. Ambrose?
Here.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Notbush?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Ms. Wilson?
Here.
We can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 9, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Did the two board members have to abstain who weren't here? 'Cause wasn't that Shannon?
They don't have to, but typically that's what happens.
Were you active in that, Julie? Then you just see you abstain.
So Joel's abstaining. And then
I'll have to abstain.
you have to
I said aye,
abstain.
but I mean I'll
I
have to
know,
abstain.
because you
Sorry.
weren't
I wasn't here.
here and, oh, you weren't here, okay.
I wasn't here.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the June 9, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. Public comments. We have one card in front of us.
I just want to take this opportunity to make a brief statement. As you know, I'm retiring at the end of the month, and this is the last school board meeting that I participated. No, I don't think I can do this. Therefore, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Carey, Business Manager Kim Anderson, and Director of Student Services Linda Klauber for their many kindnesses and expressions of appreciation they have shown me throughout the years. It has been my pleasure to work with each of you, and I wish you continued success in all that you do on behalf of District 201. I will truly miss being part of this community.
Well, we were going to do this later, but Judy had asked to talk under public comment. So on behalf of myself and the board, and certainly everybody can say what they want, again, with all due respect to Mr. Carey, we all know who really runs the district. Right, Kevin? You have been a godsend. You have been an immeasurable help to me personally and professionally over my past 6 years here, especially when we started. You have given the utmost professionalism, personalism, and nobody can ever guess, ever question whether your heart is in it. So we will miss you, and I have your address, so I might be stopping over. But no, seriously, you've really been wonderful, and your guidance will long be in my heart.
Thank you so much.
And enjoy your retirement, which I'm sure you will.
But now it's just going to be volunteering for us, right?
Yes.
And just, this is going to be part of my superintendent's report, but again, to thank Judy McMahon for her assistance. First, I transitioned to the district, and over the year, it's been great working with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And then also take a brief moment to introduce Rima Black, who has to then fill Judy's shoes, but I'm sure she'll do a great job. And so I'd like to introduce Rima Black to the board at this time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Well, now nothing. Now what are we going to do? All right, consent agenda. Are there any questions or,
I got this far. So let me circle these.
just give us one quick second. Okay, any questions or comments?
These are approvals, yeah. Meetings, attendance,
Okay.
secretary.
Oh, is that a relative of yours?
Tracy, yeah, she's got it, Tracy.
Yeah, so these two. All right. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number one, personnel recommendations, including Bridget Hudson, first grade at Manning, Matthew Kahn, resource teacher at Miller, David Demisi, athletic director, junior high, Michelle Lighty, ELL Spanish teacher, junior high school and Westmont High School, Matt Popolarczyk, U.S. History High School, Megan Connolly, guidance counselor at the high school, Maureen Power, school psychologist, Colleen Kaluga, attendance secretary, health aide at Manning School, and Tracy McMahon for the position of payroll and benefits coordinator. Number two, approval of textbook adoption request. Number three, approval of athletic trainer contract. Is that in? I don't think it's in.
No, that one is being removed.
Yeah, I was gonna say
wasn't-
that. Okay, never, we're taking that out. Approval, that's not in your board docs. 4, approval of towel service. 5, approval of change order for door hardware project. 6, disposal of equipment. 7, abatement of working cash fund. 8, approval of additional June 2015 expenditure report. And 9, ratification of June 2015 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second?
And roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Ms. Ambrose,
Say yes.
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush.
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton.
Yes. All right, now informational conversations, the presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, you have in your board packet the May financial statements. And for the month of May, the district received $54,000 from the state, and the state's vouchered another $46,000 of FY15 payments that have not been released. In the Ed and Tort Fund, revenues are comparable to the prior year. And in the other funds, again, things are running as anticipated in terms of revenues. We do have, June financials aren't completed yet, but it looks like we should, have surplus budget again this year. And as far as expenditures go, again, in the Ed and Tort funds, they're where they should be at this time of year. In the O&M fund, we're about 85% spent to date, compared to 84% last year. Transportation fund, again, varies because of timing of payments. It does look like our special education costs will exceed what we have budgeted, and then overall, but I think we should still come in. There's a couple other bills out there that for some homeless transportation that we weren't anticipating. So as soon as we get that done, I'll let you know where we stand on that. The investments are attached, as well as student activity reports and the lunch report for the year. And again, for lunches, our expenses continue to outpace revenues. So we're gonna start and look and see what we can't do to enhance that lunch program and try and get more to a break-even point on that.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, other than I appreciate in our board update this week or last week, the information about the state, since we all know that things are happening fast and furious, or not happening fast and furious. So, that we are obviously watching that and seeing how it affects our bottom line and stuff. So, thank you for that. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Okay, then the next, I guess, brief conversation we're going to have tonight is the Westmont High School pool rental.
Yes, we have had, as you are well aware, Westmont Swim Club has built a new facility, and they will have begun utilizing that this month. I'm waiting on a proposal for them. They've told me they're going to bring us a proposal for next year. And I've also had, though, quite a bit of interest from other outside organizations, and one proposal is attached for you as well. So we will need to consider proposals as they come in, but just wanted to make you aware that there was other outside interest in our pool facility.
Okay, great. Okay, then, the next item. Approval of tentative 2015-2016 budget. So we'll get to use her now. Get to use this. But I mean, she didn't do anything.
If not, we can see that.
We're just waiting for the PowerPoint to come up.
New technology. Oh, I like this one. I just saw him go in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, well, I will go ahead and just briefly run through this then from, I mean, go back to the seat or stay
Yeah,
here?
you can come back here, Kim.
You could just hold it up to the camera.
It's in board docs, though, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
in-
in board docs.
Okay, so the information.
You have a copy in your board packet. So anyway, the 2016 budget, if you look at revenues by source, in all funds, about $26.7 million. And again, the greatest portion of our revenues come from property taxes, which comprise roughly 84%. State sources are just about 8%, and federal only 3% of our revenue. In the operating funds, about 25 million, and again, those same type of ratios with, and the operating funds, 84% of revenue comes from property taxes. The 15-16 budget is based on the following revenue assumptions. The tax levy is based on a CPI of 1.5 for both the 2014 and 2015 levy. And again, property tax is largest source of revenue. Our interest rates continue to remain at historic lows. I don't see that changing. No one would think that it would be this many years, but it does not seem like we're gonna see any significant income from interest. We do have a decrease in revenue from grants. The AP grant is removed from the budget. It also decreased expenditures by the amount of that revenue. And we just got update today. They're not sure if that grant is going to continue for next year, but if it does, we will need to reapply for that. So there's no guarantee that we'll have that money next year. And I think, as you're all aware, state funding is uncertain at this time. The governor did approve elementary and secondary appropriations, but there is no state budget. So we're still kind of waiting to see, we still don't know all our final grant allocations. We have preliminary ones. We don't know exactly what's happening with GSA and some things like that. So we're still waiting for some final numbers.
Were they anticipating, because I know the total dollar amount was larger than it was last year, are we anticipating an increase, or we just don't know because they haven't said specifically? I know
Yeah.
they're talking about changing the whole formula and all of
Right.
that, but.
Yeah, they haven't, well, and we're getting close on that flat grant, so because we're, in terms of, you know, the state formula, we're considered a property wealthy community. So we don't get much general state aid anyway, so I don't anticipate that changing in our favor at
Okay.
all. And then for the expenditures by object, total expenditures in all fund are $30.4 million, and in the operating funds, to just almost $28 million. Again, salaries and benefits are the most significant portion of our expenditures, with salaries in the operating funds at about 58% and benefits at 12%. And then you can see also this year, we've done a lot more in terms of capital projects as a result of those projects that the board approved earlier this year for a lot of the summer work that's going on. That includes the tuck pointing at Manning, the asbestos abatement at Manning, and then the architectural finishes that need to be replaced as a result of that abatement, and then the door hardware replacement throughout the district. All right, so the expenditures are based on the following assumptions. Salaries are per the WTA contract, and as you know, we have not finalized contracts for WESPA or the WCMA unions. Medical insurance are budgeted half the year at current rates, and then for the last half of the year with a 3% increase. We've been trending less than that, so I'm hoping that with medical inflation that we hit that target this year. In the O&M fund, again, includes those projects that we talked about. And then the capital projects fund includes anticipated costs for 2015 and 2016 summer projects. What we don't have in here is the issuance of bonds, and so if we have some good numbers by the time the final budget is due, I will update that. Otherwise, we'll most likely amend the budget in the year after we do the bond issuance, just so you're aware of that. So the expenditure, revenue and expenditure summary, surplus or a deficit in the ed fund of about $1.3 million. Tort, we have a slight surplus in there, and that's a result of our very favorable workman's compensation rates based on our experience, and then some return of capital. And you'll hear more about that when we approve our workman's comp next month. O&M, again, for those projects that we talked about earlier, so $1.2 million deficit. And that is, everyone should be aware that that is a planned deficit that we are spending down our surplus for those projects. IMRF and Social Security have very small surpluses, and the transportation fund, about a $240,000 deficit. That's a result of the increase in our regular ed transportation, and as you're aware, we're going to go out for bid this year because of the increase. And then also just the way that the new contract for special education is being allocated. We're not sure exactly what the impact of that is going to be because they're doing different zones and things like that. So the whole format of the billing is changing. So I budgeted a little bit extra expense for that, and hopefully we won't need to spend those monies. And then capital projects, obviously, again, for the things that we're doing. So we're going to be spending down our working cash balance as well. And then fire prevention and safety, I put in expenditures there, utilizing those funds in case we do decide to do some of those life safety projects later in the year. And so the next page of the report shows the fund balance summary, and again, you'll see the changes are outlined with reflecting those surpluses or deficit in all funds. And then key considerations, our revenue projections are conservative, and again, with not out having final numbers from the state, we want to be cautious as we go forward until we find out our final allocations. Our expenditures are based on anticipated needs, and hopefully we'll continue to spend less than we actually budgeted, but everything is in there that we could possibly be spending our funds on. The 15-16 budget is aligned with board and district goals to provide the educational services to students and the families that we serve. Again, highlighting planned deficit spending in the O&M fund. And the other thing that I did want to highlight too is the governor is considering legislation. There's proposed legislation for a property tax extension freeze for 2 years. Obviously, all of our salary contracts are tied to CPI increases, so if that does result, we will obviously have to have some discussions about the impact of that and what we may need to do in the future. But again, we don't know. I mean, we're still waiting on pension legislation and things like that, so who knows what will actually come to fruition. And the public display budget is presented to the board this evening. The budget will be on display for a minimum of 30 days at the district office at 133 South Grant Street. Legal notice will be published in the Suburban Life publication, and that will be on July 29th. And then the public hearing and final budget adoption will be September 30th. And or by September 30th. So the actual public hearing will be Tuesday, September 22nd at 7 o'clock here at the Village Hall. Does anybody have questions? And your board memo detail goes into much greater detail about the different components of the budget.
I have a couple of things. I wanted to mention that, thank you for this, and a couple things that I do appreciate this memo, because one of the things that, just to reiterate, was some of the educational fund expenditures that we did do this summer, do this year, are worth mentioning again. Enhanced summer school offerings district-wide, staffing needs to address student learning and instructional practices, our dual language program expanding to 2nd grade, and additional one-to-one technology. In addition to bilingual interventionist at Miller, and additional psychologist. So it's, I think it's worth stating those things again, that we are, continuing to provide the education with these additional items. And as everybody is aware, anything that's additional does have a price tag to it. So I thought, thank you for reminding us about
and
that.
Yeah, student learning has been the focus and at the forefront of our budget decisions.
And again, we're still, watching every dime that we're spending, but yet we've made the decision that these are important. And so it's just worth mentioning again, as well as spending some of our operation and maintenance funds on getting door locks, as we had stated that we were going to be doing. So that's happening. It's a shame to hear again about this, that you so eloquently mentioned to us about the state and the tax freeze, so that really certainly could impact us to our detriment. So obviously we'll be watching that. It's also really wonderful to read about the workman's comp premium by Safe Practices that the staff have done to keep that low. So thank you very much for highlighting that for us. I will also state here, I highlighted this: thoughtful spending and a prudent review of expenditures contribute to the surplus that we have. And so I will have to say thank you very much for that as well. So, see, we actually read this stuff.
That's good.
So anyway, I just kind of wanted to highlight some of those areas.
Okay.
And so if
Any
anyone
other-
else had any questions or comments or anything.
No.
Okay. All right. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the tentative 2015-2016 budget as presented, and that said budget be available for public inspection in the district's business office from July 15, 2015, until board adoption on Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Natbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of July 2015 expenditure authorization. Do you want to just mention what that is again?
Yeah, there's, the next board meeting, this board meeting is early and too early to get all of the July bills in, and the next board meeting isn't till the middle of August. So this is just seeking authorization for us to be able to cut those checks for the bills that have been approved with the budget and that need to be sent out prior to that board meeting. And we do this every year because we only have, because of the timing of our meetings.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right, the chair will entertain a motion to authorize and direct the treasurer to pay any bills received in July 2015 that have been budgeted for the 2016 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Natbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. Okay, superintendent's report?
Just a couple things to report this evening. First of all, under communication, one of the attachments in your board book is the board calendar for the fiscal year, and that's just a calendar that's put together so that as board members, you can anticipate various action items throughout the fiscal year, and then also what you can anticipate is some of the discussion items on the agenda as well. And those are the typical approvals that we'll have. So as you look at that calendar, you have an idea of how the fiscal year will develop. Just a reminder, the board conference that takes place in November, the pre-conference sessions are now available. I included a copy of those in your board update. And those conferences, those pre-conferences do fill up quickly. And so as you look at those, if there's something that you would like to attend, if you can communicate that either to Judy or Rima, and they'll be making those reservations for you. And it does, as we get closer to that date, if all of a sudden you decide, I really would like to attend a session, in many cases they'll already be closed, so it's difficult to get those late registrations in. So
I have a quick question. Is there any mandatory training that we have to take? I know in the past that occasionally there's been sessions that would allow that. Is there anything coming up that we have to?
not, I think,
Not in the Friday one.
right, not in the Friday ones.
Just asking, because I know last year and in previous years, there's been other things we've had to attend. That's why I'm just asking.
I'm thinking maybe for the new board members. about
The new board
para-
members,
yeah.
para
Board members.
training.
Yeah, there's specific training that they have to take.
And some of those were related to legislation that was passed.
Yeah.
Right, so I just was wondering if
Yeah.
there's anything else.
So that
So there'll be
you
some
know.
mandatory classes I'll have to take in November, is it over?
Yeah, and remember some of those on, like you can get you can get some of the credit on Saturday, during some of the Saturday sessions, but you gotta get in there like you gotta be one of the first. And I think some of those you have to pre-sign up for. So we should sit and chat about
discuss it.
those.
I know I saw the one that was mandatory for us, the para training, or. remember that?
Para-training, right,
Right.
that's,
That
That's
one
the one.
is, I think, a half day or a full day, one of the sessions. So that would be one that
That was because
is
of.
required.
Right,
Right.
and that was the legislation at the time. So new board members, yes, but
right.
Isn't that a boot camp? Board boot camp?
Possibly, it might be.
I think that's a
So
board.
if you've gone to
boot camp.
board boot camp, you might have been covered already.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the sessions that you have gone to,
Yeah,
but that is a
I've already
good
done
point to bring up
we
for
can
that.
put that list together for you.
I
so
also
that you
want
know.
to interject for those that have been going to these a while, that the Friday sessions, there's some brand-new ones. So, a couple times they do this, a couple years in a row, sometimes they do some of the same, offer the same sessions. But there's two brand-new ones this year. So take a look at those, and I know those are, I had asked Judy to sign me up for those, because I'm thinking that board members who've been around a long time might be looking for something new. And so those might fill up even quicker than the others do. So just an FYI.
And then just a reminder to district families that next week, July 21st, is our first registration day, and that'll take place at Westmont Junior High from 2 o'clock p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. And regardless of what school your children attend, we have centralized registration, so all registrations take place at the junior high. And if parents want to expedite the process, it's helpful if they complete the pre-registration information in Skyward that is available now. And if you cannot make the July 21st date, there will be a second registration date on August 10th, also at Westmont Junior High from 2 o'clock until 7 o'clock p.m.
And I know that, I want to say last year, the pre-registration closed the day before
Right.
the first, but then it reopened again until the next registration period, right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Are you going to be, do you want board members to assist?
If board members can help, that would be great.
Okay.
Because some of those families who maybe were not able to get the pre-registration completed, it's helpful. Nadine Norris will be in the junior high office, and it's helpful to have some board members assisting with that as well.
Okay.
So if they're available.
I can do the second one, for sure. So I'll, we'll let Nadine know
Sure.
that.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to remind people, it was in the email and phone blast that went out to everybody, letting them know registration was open. But on this Friday, the 17th, there is going to be some Skyward student maintenance. So if they can't get in, they need to try again, because there might be a brief period of time that the system might not be accessible. We're aware of it, and they just need to try back later. And also, if people can pay online with debit and credit cards ahead of time, that expedites the process. And if we need to, we can also set up payment plans, so.
You know, on
Is
the
that an
front,
option to indicate online payment plans, or do they need to contact?
No, they need to contact us and fill out a form.
you know, on the front page of the website where we have the news, could, on that date that you're mentioning, Kim, could we put a note there that if people are,
Yeah, Skyward Family Access
yeah,
not
just
available.
today, not this day, try again.
Okay.
I just recently had something like that happen in my business situation, and I was like frustrated for like 2 hours, thinking it was my end, and I called the next day, and they said, oh yeah, I was down. So if we know it, we might as well let people know. Okay,
And then the other item I have is attached, and I apologize, it was, this evening it was attached, but the capital expenditure 5-year plan, our capital projects. And so that is for your review. Kim's going to briefly go through it so that to kind of give you an idea of how it's coded. But then the intent is, obviously, if there's questions tonight, we can answer those. But the intent is then at our August board meeting, we'll include it as a discussion item after the board has had a chance to kind of look over the information. But Kim, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll start. Well, first thing that it's important to know is this is the exact same plan that we had last year. So nothing's been added or removed from it, just things have been moved over that we haven't been able to get to with our budget. The board already approved, again, the majority of capital projects earlier this year, which were the masonry, the abatement, the architectural finishes, and the door hardware. So that's why, and given those things, there's not additional funds to do other projects. We also found out after we had awarded all those bids, several weeks later, that some of the CDB money that we're supposed to be getting has not been appropriated now, so we may not be getting that. So that's why we have not added anything additional onto this list. So we may come back at a later point and say, okay, yes, we got this money and now we do have funds, and so we will do some other work that is outstanding. So there's nothing being proposed beyond what's there or what can fit within the scope of the current projects that we have out there. But I did, if you look at the individual schools, I did color code last year's items with yellow showing what we had completed in each of those categories. So you saw where capital expenditures, what we had proposed and what got approved. We look at the high school, the ovens did not get purchased last year. There is an opportunity for grant funding for that this year, so we have applied for a grant, and we'll see if we get that, and then we'll come back to you with approval for that. Otherwise, other projects have been moved out to 2016-17, and again, we'll review those later in the year. When we look at the junior high, again, highlighting the 14-15 year in yellow, the completed projects, and then we had approved last year the repairing the 3 main cold water supply valves. That did not get completed before June 30th, so that's going to happen this month. But that was stuff that was approved last year. That money is surplus in the budget, and so we're finishing that up. And then there's a lot of concrete repair that could be done, and that's highlighted in purple on there, that if funds exist later in the year, that would be something that we would come back and discuss about doing. Then we go to Manning, the tuck pointing is being done now, so that's highlighted in the pink, that portions of this are being completed. The entire building is not being done, but certain portions are. And then you can see a significant number of the projects from last year were completed. Again, there's some concrete repairs there that if sufficient funds exist, we'll come back to you about that. And again, new carpeting, again, not in the entire building, but in certain portions of the building is happening right now. And then some of the classroom and corridor lighting replacement is happening now. So portions of those dollars are being spent with the approvals. And then the replacing the AC unit in the community room was on the budget last year. It's being done now in the summer right now. And when you go to Miller School, the projects that we had on the list for last year were all completed. Again, nothing is new as updated, but obviously the door hardware replacement is happening there this year. South School, again, last year we completed the roof and tuck pointing the chimney. No projects are slated there this year. There is one repair item, which is removing a storage tank that we did not know exists and stuff, and that, but that falls under our repair and maintenance budget.
Just out of curiosity, I saw that. Where is the storage tank? What do we?
It's back in that little, off the alley, that little piece that goes between the two sections of the building, between the administrative building and the preschool.
Okay, what was in the
So-
tank? What was?
It was heating fuel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't show up on any of the old documents, but when we had a leak and we discovered the tank. Yes.
We found the source of
Surprise,
it.
surprise.
It was buried.
Yes, it's buried, yes. Okay. And then, as far as district-wide grounds projects, there were a significant number of dead trees that we had removed last year, and those couple of items, and again, nothing planned for, as far as capital projects go so far this year. And then equipment, we did purchase the irrigation sprinkler that was approved last year. And then Mike has had on his list a new cube van and a snow blower, mower with a snow blower. And again, those are pending funds available. And so if we find that our current contracts come in below budget and we have some additional funds, we'll come back to you with those projects. Anybody have questions? And then obviously you'll have a chance to look at this more in depth and ask questions, but I just wanted to kind of go over what the color coding meant and where we stand.
I have a question that I see, just from looking at this. So on the junior high, you have that, the first item, the first item, but it says priority number 2, and that it's completed, but it says life safety could be. Do we know if that is, so the project is
No,
completed?
it could have been done through life safety. We would have had to have done an amendment. So this is just last year's kind of updated.
Okay.
To give you progress. So, but we were able to do that through the regular budget.
So that was done under O&M?
Yes.
not under life safety.
Right.
Okay, okay. So I guess that, so like now at Manning School, that first item under there, tuck pointing entire building.
Yes.
So that project is being done, portions completed now, and that is under life safety,
Right.
for sure.
Yes. And that was some of the project that could have been with the CDB grant, the money that we're not going to be getting.
Just
right now.
remind us what the CDB grant is.
Was the grant from, the district applied for many years ago, and we finally got funding.
Okay.
And
Well, that's when it
so-
required the matching funding.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
then
so,
it disappeared again.
so the same thing with then the next item there, the metal cap and flashing, that was completed and it is under life safety.
It could have been, but no, we did that as part of, so last year when we did things of where money could come from, that
Right.
it could be, but we did not. That came out of the regular budget.
Okay, so the second item there, metal cap, that should not have, yes, as life safety, but it came out of operation and maintenance?
This was set up as where funds, it could be,
Okay,
that it could have been life safety, but no, it was not done there.
okay. And then, so then the next item, I'm just going through this list and, you know, maybe before August, can we get
Where
this
it came
updated?
from, yeah.
Just so that we know, like the next one was the replace the roofing. It says under life safety could be capital improvements planned to use these funds. So,
Right, so we used capital improvement funds for that. We
Okay.
actually did that.
okay, and
So
then,
so last year, we gave options of where the different, what projects where funding could come out of.
okay,
And so as we did this one, it could be a capital project, we did take it out of capital projects.
okay. Yeah, that would be helpful
Okay.
for us to look at it so we can have a conversation then.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, if you even want those still on there, because typically we would remove those, but I just kind of wanted to give you an update of what was done.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think
Okay.
to look at that is great. And then, can I just respectfully ask, so the priority, is that basically from this?
Those were from last year,
Okay.
what we had kind of gone through as maybe some of our priority, but then we'd kind of moved things around based on funding.
Okay, okay. And so I guess the question
And so
then,
and I did not update
Okay.
that piece, so
Okay.
I should have probably removed it to make
Okay.
it a little easier. So ignore that column.
okay,
for tonight.
okay, that's gonna, okay, so then I guess the next question is, are there any other things that should go on here that have come up? You know, I mean, before, when we
Yeah.
have our, you know, I know this, you're saying this list came from before, so.
Right.
Before we start talking about,
I will go
the-
through with Mike once again. I mean, really the things that they kind of, obviously he would like the vehicles. The concrete work, should probably be done, or we need to do a life safety amendment for that to get some of that done, so. Because there are some, the entranceways at the high school and at the junior high are, the concrete's kind of pitted and not in that good of shape, so
okay,
those are the couple
I
things
think probably the Miller parking lot would be another
Yes.
significant one.
okay, so, yeah, any piece of that, so we can have a, you
Yeah,
know,
and the Miller parking lot's on here, yeah.
okay.
So
Okay,
if we have an item or something that we think of, should we just email it to you to add
Yes.
to the list for discussion? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
okay, so the top of this says July 2015, but this was from last year.
Right, but I just updated this as of
With
July
the,
2015.
with the,
Right.
with the count, with
Yes.
what's the color coding. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so if we could do that, then we could, discuss, and if, we can find it, like Joel said, if there's any other items, or if something has come that we didn't have last year. That'd be great. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, Kevin, do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, are there any board reports? Everybody having a great summer? Okay, are there any public comments? All right, the future meetings then, again, just reiterating, registration is on July 21st from 2 to 7 at the Westmont Junior High School for all schools. Also, again, August 10th from 2 to 7 at the Westmont Junior High School. And the next school board meeting will be August 11th, 2015, here at 7 o'clock at the Village Hall. Closed session. The chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, probable litigation, security issues, and lease agreements.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mrs. Natbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And there will not be a vote.
No action.
And no vote after close. Thank you.